Semifinal time at the Australian Open. Yeah, gotta love it. The semifinals are set, and Djokovic is still looking dominant as ever, and he looks unstoppable. And it still looks like a shock if he was to not win the Australian Open. But we're getting deeper. We're going to see who might be able to cause him some disruption. Is it going to be Tommy Paul? Is it going to be Stefanos Tsitsipas in the final? Is it going to be Karen Khachanov in the final? We'll see. But we're going to break down the quarterfinal matchups from yesterday on the men's and women's. Some great matches. And then we're going to preview the semifinal matchups on both sides. They're great. They're good. They're different. They're not like all the other years, which I think is exciting. So strap in. Let's get down into the dirt and figure this out. Welcome to the Slice. All right, people. Well, what did you think about last night's matches? Leave your comments below. As you know, this is interactive. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your slice. Give the slice from yourself, and make sure you subscribe because that helps out the show for sure. Appreciate you guys. The official bag of the slice is Go Sport, so the link is below to get 10% off your purchase of a Go Sport bag. Highly recommend them. Can't recommend them enough. Matches yesterday. Let's go through the matches yesterday. Why don't we? We'll start with Magna Linette taking out Pliskova. What a dream story. Everyone's tweeting out, we all expected a Polish player to be in the semifinals, just not Magna Linette. And that's what everyone said, and that's true because everyone thought obviously it'd be Iga Swiatek in the final or the semifinal or winning the whole tournament. I didn't think she'd win the whole tournament, but huge Cinderella run from Linette, 30 years old. Just a great story. Wow, what a player. Takes out Pliskova, who I cannot get a read on. Pliskova seems like just zero emotion ever in her game. She loses, she wins. She looks the exact same in both scenarios almost. But yeah, anyways, Linette through. That is a big time result for her. Obviously, semifinals of a major tournament. Very exciting. She will play Sabalenka, who defeated Donna Vekic in a match which had checks notes, 22 double faults. I mean, what are we doing here? That's just ridiculous. We all thought Aryna Sabalenka's serve, you never know what you're going to get, but it was a lot better than Donna Vekic's, who served 13 double faults, 2 aces, only got a first serve in 50% of the time, only won 66% of those first serves, and only won 26% of her second serves. So rough serving night there from old Donna, who had a great tournament though. Let's not despise that. But yeah, just a bit of a weird match there. But I do think in general, Sabalenka's serving concerns are kind of better. And I think she's still the big favorite. And she was my favorite from pre-tournament to win this whole title. So I'm liking that pick still. We'll get into matchups there later. But that was a solid performance from Sabalenka to just outclass Vekic there. Even though Sabalenka had a losing head-to-head against Vekic and had a recent loss to her as well. So good win there for Sabalenka. The train keeps rolling for her. Into the men, Tommy Paul takes out fellow American Ben Shelton. And I watched this match all the way through. I thought it was a great match. I was sure that before the match that Tommy Paul would have more angles and sides to his game that he could present Ben Shelton with that would just overdo it for Shelton. And that was true. That is what happened. I think Tommy Paul pretty much thoroughly outplayed Shelton the entire match and really outclassed him, which is obviously to be expected. Ben Shelton's first major, Tommy Paul's 25. He's just got a lot more experience on tour. But obviously Ben Shelton's super impressive. Like you can't look at that guy's serve and think that he'll be outside the top 20 for long. Like he seems like a guy who's just based on his power and the size of his game will be competitive in every match he plays and dangerous to any opponent, basically. The obvious short fallings in his game were his backhand. I don't think he had any winners in the entire match with his backhand, and Tommy really felt safe going there. And that was a Tommy's forehand into the Shelton backhand. So, Tommy's able to hide his backhand. Not that he needs to, but he was able to get it cross court into Shelton's, which helped him, find, places to find time in the rallies. And then obviously in the return as well, Shelton didn't do great returning Tommy Paul's serve, which is beefed up now using the new Yonex sticks that Tommy Paul is using. So anyways, great match from Tommy Paul. To be honest, though, Ben Shelton, there's tons of hype, which is totally warranted, and he's a star. He's huge. I underestimated how much chance I think Shelton had in this match. I said on a show last night, like, it wouldn't blow my mind if he upsetted Tommy Paul, and I guess it wouldn't really, but Shelton did have a fairly easy run to the quarterfinals. It's an amazing result for him, but he didn't. I think the highest seeded or highest ranked player he played to get to the quarterfinals was like ranked 67 in the world, which is kind of weird. So he had a fairly easy run to the quarterfinals, and then he lost to the first kind of elite player he played. And it was almost 3 sets, probably should have been 3 sets. Tommy did get tight when serving up a break in the 3rd set. He got broken there pretty bad. It was like really his only bad game of the match. Shelton got back in it, and then Shelton broke to win the set as well. But Tommy immediately recouped, broke early in the 4th, and stayed ahead, which was super impressive. Funny moment there with Coach Brad Stein, who is a friend of the show. So Tommy, Shelton's first serve is huge. Tommy had a hard time reading it, and Tommy goes, "Which way am I covering?" And Brad's, he's like, I think he said, to be quote, he's like, "Where am I going?" to his coach. And Brad Stein's like, he's like, "What?" He's like, "Where am I going? Where am I covering?" And he's like, T. He just goes like this, T. He's like, serve T. And then Shelton, I think, saw this because and they also were showing on the big screen. And anyways, Shelton literally served out wide, aced them. It was so funny. But it didn't really affect the outcome of the match. But funny moment there. Just to put it into stats, how clinical Tommy was. 43 winners, 26 unforced errors from Tommy. That's very, very good. So Tommy showed maturity. He showed the depth of his game, and he's just an awesome player to watch. Don't you guys love watching a player who doesn't just rely on big weapons, who relies on athleticism, has an amazing backhand and forehand, and just all-court game? That's really what Tommy's grown into, and it's a pleasure to watch for sure. So it's going to be an interesting match with Djokovic next, who he's obviously playing in the semifinals, because Djokovic destroyed Rublev. I would say not destroyed, but routines Rublev, which I was expecting, which is why I didn't stay up for the match, just being honest with you guys. Djokovic wins in 3 sets, 6-1, 6-2, 6-4, which is, it just makes it not a good, when the 5th best player in the world is losing like that to the 4th best player, and it was like pretty predictable. It's not great. I'll say that. It's not great. But Rublev did have chances. He had 5 break chances, didn't break at all. Looked like Djokovic really stepped up, as we've seen him do so many times throughout his career, in the biggest moments, played his best tennis when it really mattered, and it was clinical. Djokovic, 32 winners, 21 unforced errors, and the Rublev serve was ineffective. It has gotten better, but yesterday was ineffective and downright almost a liability when it comes to matching up against Djokovic's return. Like, that should make obvious sense. Even with, the serve pace from Rublev has gotten higher, but his placement is still not elite enough to really hurt Djokovic. And Djokovic is probably the best returner of all time. So let me just pull up the stats here on the Rublev serve. He only won 32% of his second serve. So, I mean, Djokovic only won 50% of his second serve, but Rublev also only won 61% of his first serve. So it's just not enough confidence on his serve at all to worry Djokovic. And yeah, Djokovic is just too good still. He's just too good. He's playing so confidently, playing so well, using the revenge from last year. It's the revenge tour. His hamstring seems totally healed. I think he's just having the wrapping on his legs still to probably protect it, but to also like intimidate opponents. Beware the injured warrior. So yeah, Djokovic is still looking like my absolute favorite to win the title. Let's look at the matchups. Let's start with the women. Quarterfinals done. Semifinals now. Elena Rybakina taking on Victoria Azarenka, the 22 seed versus the 24 seed. And both these ladies can step in and take the ball early. They both can play with power. I would say Rybakina has more power, but Azarenka's got more movement, more of an all-around game, and it's going to be an interesting match. We will see how much the Rybakina serve can dominate the match, how much pressure it can put on Azarenka, and how much Azarenka will be able to get into those games. She's not like Rybakina is not unbreakable, but by any means, but it takes a lot of effort to break her. And then she can break back as well. Like she's got a great round game. She's not as much like a Pliskova. She's more well-rounded than a Pliskova, in my opinion. So that's going to be an interesting match. For some reason, I'm leaning Rybakina. Maybe just because we've been having fun with her name. I gave the official guide to how to say her name in the last show. But I do think she's the big, or not big favorite, but I think she is my favorite to win that match. We'll see though, because as we all know, Azarenka has been here before. She's won this title. So that matters, I think. Even though it's been 10 years since her last semifinal, which is a crazy stat, it matters. You can look back on experience. But Rybakina won a major in last year in Wimbledon, even though she's disrespected for it, and people forget that probably. So I'm leaning Rybakina. Sorry, I've been butchering it probably. Rybakina over Azarenka, and then I'm leaning Sabalenka over Linette. To be clear, it's basically up to Sabalenka if she's gonna have any trouble in this match. I think from what I saw with Linette, she's like a solid player, plays great, but Sabalenka's just got so much power, and she's playing very confidently right now. And if the serve isn't too much of a liability, I don't see too much where Linette can hurt her. Does that make sense? So I'm taking Sabalenka to play Rybakina in the final, and that would be a great, great final. But it would also be a great final with Azarenka. But I do think Sabalenka is coming out of the bottom there for shizzle. Men's now. We got Karen Khachanov versus Stefanos Tsitsipas. Now, that could clearly be a war, right? Why? There's no huge advantage for either player. I think Tsitsipas is obviously the better tennis player, more well-rounded, has more aspects to his game. But Karen Khachanov, he's played better in the last two majors than Tsitsipas has. He made the semifinals at the US Open, and he's here in the semifinals again. So do not sleep on Karen Khachanov for sure. Tsitsipas will have to manage his expectations, as I feel like he's been doing well all tournament. He seems locked in. He seems focused on every match and not getting ahead of himself. So he's going to have to do that again here. Obviously, people are going to expect him to get to the final, and this is going to be a great chance for him. Not a great chance, but this is another chance to win his first slam. And I know he feels pressure from that. And you could see it last year, but I do think hopefully he has less pressure on himself this year. But he's the favorite coming into this match versus Khachanov, and we'll see how he lives up to that hype. He's been here before, though. He's been the favorite in a ton of matches. Most of his Grand Slam matches over the last 4 years, he's been the favorite in. So we will see how he plays. And that match could be 4 or 5 sets. It could be straight sets for Tsitsipas, because Khachanov does have the ability to just blow up and play terrible tennis. But he can also play pretty amazing tennis. And if he can rattle Tsitsipas, like I've said all tournament for Tsitsipas, if he can rattle him and get him to mentally snap like he's done before, then big chance for Karen Khachanov. So I would not write him off in the slightest. But I do lean Tsitsipas getting through that, I would say, in 4 sets. So, and then we got Tommy Paul versus Novak Djokovic. T-Pain, as I'm calling him, bringing the pain. What a run for this guy. I mean, great guy. Semi-finalist at the US Open after grinding his way, slowly building up his ranking, working with Coach Brad Stein to become the all-court player, become the offensive, crafty player that he is today. He's also become a super athlete, like one of the best athletes on tour, I think. He's jacked. He moves super well, super quick and athletic. So he could, people don't want to hear this, but he could make this a super interesting match with Djokovic. He's the type of player who can cause Djokovic problems. He's got a better serve than Rublev. He's got a great backhand, so he's going to feel fine in the backhand-to-backhand rallies. He's got a big enough forehand to hurt Djokovic, and he's got the all-round game. So I'm interested. I'm really, really interested to see what type of game plan he and Coach Brad Stein bring to the table. Is he going to try and go through Djokovic? Is he going to try and slow ball him and play the angles and bring Djokovic to the net, not on his own terms, hit the short slices like Federer used to do? What will Tommy Paul do to try and get Djokovic out of the comfort seat? Because if Djokovic is in the comfort seat, dictating, hitting big like he has all tournament, hitting through the court, and Tommy's just running around, it's just not going to go well, obviously. But he's the type of athlete, and he's the type of player, he's like a new, like better, like more younger, faster Roberto Bautista Agut with bigger shots. So he can challenge, he can make this ugly for Djokovic if he plays great and if he has a succinct game plan that I know that he'll probably have. But Djokovic can just go to another stratosphere. Let's be honest as well. He can just go to a different planet than these other players can go. He can keep the balls. I don't think you can practice I don't think you can practice or train for how deep Djokovic keeps the balls. Like you can train for, yeah, we're gonna have long rallies and stuff, but the quality of each ball that comes from Djokovic can be, I think, overwhelming. It just like rattles players. You're like, how am I picking up half volleys all match long and expected to win here or win games, win sets? So we'll see how good Djokovic comes and plays out. If he plays super aggressive, putting the ball a foot from the baseline every time, it's gonna be tough. So Djokovic is a big favorite, and he'd be my pick to win this match. But anyone disrespecting Tommy Paul, saying he has no chance, Rublev had no chance. I think he can cause more issues than Rublev did, because I think he's a better defender, and he has more dynamic to his game, which I think can play well versus Djokovic. So let's see. I am expecting a Djokovic Tsitsipas final. I'm expecting a Rybakina Sabalenka final, and those would be pretty juicy finals, wouldn't it? So there's the semifinal preview from here at the Slice. Leave your slice down below, subscribe down below, and hop on Twitter. Follow me on there. I will be live tweeting these matches. I will stay up for the Djokovic Paul one. I will stay up for all the matches from here on out, I think. So I'll be giving more like detailed like match by match analysis going forward. Expect a couple videos from me each day. But yeah, there we are, people. That's the semifinal preview from the Slice. That's all I got. That's my thoughts. And we're really getting to the pointy part of the tournament now, aren't we? So keep it locked here. Thanks for being here, and we will see you next time here on the show.